Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is a Belizean Affairs Show number 388. 388. My name is Leonard Brackett. I will be your host for tonight, being Friday, which we usually use as our constitutional night, as well as legal and other case law matters. Uh, I'll bring to you some legal matters tonight. And before getting into the full program itself, I would just like to follow the same pattern that we used as the protocol for launching our program, and that is that I'm going to say a short prayer, after which I will do a short reading. I don't have anyone else in the background right now to help with the reading, so I'll just end up doing both. And without any further ado, let me just bow my head and close my eyes for a short prayer. Divine loving Father, as we come before thy presence once more, we pray that thou mayest accept our humble expression of gratitude and thankfulness to thee for giving us the privilege of life, first and foremost, and secondly, for the opportunity to still be alive among our family members, friends, and loved ones. Thou knowest our hearts, our desires, even our most secret thoughts, loving Father. Thou knowest our family members by name and number. Please guide and protect and bless them. Let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our hearts and the meditation of our minds and the contriteness of our hearts be acceptable before thy divine presence now and always. We pray that thou must bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership, that thou will bless this country of the United States as well, its people and leadership, and that thou will bless the rest of humanity. Please have mercy upon those people who have need of food and clothes and shelter. You know their needs. Please grant us health, courage, strength, perseverance, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and that whatever we impart tonight may it be to the honor and glory of thy kingdom as well, Lord. For us, mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you for allowing me to indulge in that part of our program. And just right now, I'll go to the New Testament and I'll read. Let's see what we're going to read here right now. Something quick. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to read from the book of Luke for tonight. Luke chapter 21, verses, starting at verse 1, I'll read. And it reads as follows. And he looked up and saw the rich men casting their gifts into the treasury. And he saw also a certain poor widow casting in thither 2 mites. That is to say, 2 mites in those days were like probably some small denominated coin, probably maybe, a nickel or a dime or something like that. I'll just read the next verse after that. And he said, Oh, of a truth, I say unto thee, this poor widow had cast in more than they all. And that's the end of our reading for tonight. And the context of that reading is that we had this poor lady that was trying to contribute to the well-being of the society, as well as those rich people. And those rich people were giving a lot of money, which she didn't have, but she gave what she had, which according to the scriptures was more than what some of the other people gave in terms of their means, what they can afford. Even though she was poor, she put in what she could have. And the moral of the story is that there's a lot of people who are not billionaires or multi-billionaires. There's a lot of people who are not millionaires. There's a lot of people who are probably not even employed. don't have a job, don't have any means of survival or subsistence. Some of them depend on the largest of the society, at the poor houses, for example, and or maybe they depend on maybe their social security pensions that they have worked and saved up through the social security system and are living off of those small amount of money. So they can't give no millions of dollars like the big rich people who have billions of dollars. But they give what they can, and the little that they give will share with others amongst quite a bit. That if that little bit was not given, it would not have made the difference. Uh, in other words, I'm sorry, I articulated wrongly just now. That little bit that was given end up making the difference, and without it, you know, support would not have been there for others. So that's the context of the moral of that particular reading. And for tonight, I, I'd like to say before I get into the constitutional part of the program that we still have too many killings, accidents, and other type of mayhem going on in our small country of Belize. And for that, I think we need to be a bit more conscientious towards each other and the rest of the society. People who are driving need to be more careful. People who are riding their motorcycles need to be more careful. People who are riding their bicycles or people who are pedestrians walking on the street need to be more careful. We have some individuals who are just disdainful and disrespectful, disregarding the traffic requirements and or the well-being of others. And sometimes they get into accident, they hurt themselves, and they are not available to provide for the rest of their families, which means a lot of other people are suffering unnecessarily as well. That being said, uh, tonight I would like to go back to the Constitution of Belize, which the Prime Minister has been making an attempt to try and revamp or eviscerate. We're not sure yet what's going to be the final outcome because he put together a commission, went to the House, passed a law requiring that they should get some money to do this education campaign and to put a report together for him to receive so that he can discuss with cabinet and then take whatever they deem necessary to the House to vote on to modify the Constitution. Yes, the Congress is empowered constitutionally with some authority to make changes to the Constitution, but not the whole Constitution per se. In other words, there are certain parts of the Constitution which cannot be written out of existence. There are certain parts of the Constitution, for example, the separation of power sections, which the government have no legal authority vested in it to alter or modify or eviscerate or get rid of. There are a certain part of the Constitution that says that if the government wants to abrogate certain rights or deal with certain rights in a different way than is stated in the Constitution, it may be permissible for them to go to the public with a plebiscite to get those reserved powers from the plebiscite granted to them for them to exercise. But our government have the tendency of going to the House, passing bogus unconstitutional laws, and then demand that the public follow those laws, when in fact the Constitution have already dictated in Section 2 of the Constitution of Belize, under Subsection 1, to say that the Constitution of Belize is the supreme law of the country. And if any other law, that is the laws that the legislators they make, which are substantive laws, if any other law is inconsistent with the Constitution, then that other law, to the extent of the inconsistency, is void. And these guys play fast and loose with our Constitution and pretend that They have no knowledge that that part of the Constitution exists, nor do they have any willingness to abide by it, even though they swear allegiance to the Constitution. They pretend that we don't have one when it's convenient for them, and then they pretend that they can alter just about any and every part of the Constitution, and or they want the laws to come out of their head on any given day. So I have the tendency of, speaking to them in a derogatory way, which is not nice and right either, but as a way of flagging them so they get the sense that not all of us Belizeans are going to tolerate their nonsense and or pretend that we don't know better as well. So I take it upon my shoulder to do this, what you call constitutional review, teachable moments to help the people of our country to become familiar with the Constitution, because the majority of the people in the country are unfamiliar with the present Constitution, and very likely they will be put in a position where they will be asked to pass judgment on the future Constitution that these guys want to replace for the one that we now have on hand. If the people don't understand enough about what the current one is, how are they going to differentiate between what is currently the status of the Constitution and the rights that is vested in us, the authority vested in us as the populace, and the authority vested in the legislator, the authority vested in the courts, the authority vested in the executive. These things ought to be taught at school at different levels so that people can be familiar. But nevertheless, like I said, the government put together a Constitutional Review Commission under the title of PCC, People's Constitution Commission, and they undertook an endeavor to teach, which they never did, and to provide a report to the Prime Minister, which they have already completed, despite the fact that they have not done the teaching. They spent the money that was allotted from the Treasury, and the Prime Minister is now in a situation where he has that report on his desk or somewhere around in a bucket or a can or somewhere in his office. And I'm of the opinion that one of these days he's going to spring that review on us by going to the House, by discussing the matter in Cabinet, going to the House and try to pass whatever they want to pass there, and eventually turn around and say, well, because they pass it, it is now constituted as constitutional and legal and lawful. And I beg to differ, because unless they follow the correct procedures, protocols, precepts, and principles of the constitutional review process, whatever they come up with that is anti-constitutional or violates the Constitution, anything that is a violative of the current Constitution is null and void. And I made a personal challenge to hang this present Constitution around their neck, because what they're trying to do, because of their honorousness, is to make a constitution, a different constitution that is more pliable to their wishes, so that they can aggregate to themselves additional powers that they're not currently vested with. For example, they want to take the powers of the Governor General and the head of state and give those over to the Prime Minister for him to become head of state and probably a future president of a future Belize Republic. No, you hear me say future and future a few times just now, because it's all proposed, it's all an agenda that they have, and it's all a battle that's being waged, that's going on currently, for which I have no intent or interest in letting them off easily. There's someone in the background. Okay. So I see there's someone in the background. I see our senior engineer and our next panelist, Mr. Gregory Brackett. He's working on something in the background apparently. So and he can bring himself on to the show at his own convenience. So I will not demur or distract any further. I'll just keep pressing on in terms of. I was mentioning that for tonight we're going to do some of the review on what the Constitutional Reform Commission had presented to the Prime Minister and make some additional comparison to what those presentations are or recommendations are compared to what the present Constitution, which is the current law in place, um, prescribes. Uh, I want to go to this section here, part two of our Constitution of Belize, and I want to read. Let me turn this sideways. Um, with the last time we dealt with this subject matter and these issues, we were dealing with part three of the Constitution, which defines citizenship and how a person becomes a citizen of the country if they are not born in the country or if they are not born Belizean. There are provisions that are set out. Uh, so we did section 23 before, so I'm not going to go back over the whole of that again. And we have section 24. Let me see. Provisions in Belize. Okay. And we will skip over 24 as well, which deals with citizens born in Belize at a certain time and or beyond that time, and how um, people who are not born in Belize but who are of Belizean parentage, in other words, have the right to inherit by inheritance, the right of Belizean citizenship. And then you also have those who become citizens by naturalization, who are granted citizenship through the legislative process that is authorized by the Constitution for the legislator to grant citizenship. And then there are also some people who are excluded or precluded from being granted citizenship, such as any country that is in warfare and or claims the territorial any part of the territorial integrity of Belize. Their citizens are not qualified under our present constitution to be granted citizenship or nationality, as in the case, for example, Guatemala. That is not the case with Mexico because Mexico is not claiming our territory, nor are we at the Hague, the ICJ, in any conflict with them. But we are with Guatemala. Um, okay, so under Section 25, it speaks about individuals who are born outside of Belize. And under 26, uh, I'll go ahead and read 26 because that's a new part that we had not dealt with before. So it reads as follows. Constitution of Belize, section um, section 26, subsection 1 reads, the following persons may, upon making application at any time after the 21st day of September of 1981, be registered as citizen of Belize. For example, as in category A, paragraph A, any person who is married to a citizen of Belize. And in the case of paragraph B, any person who has been resident continuously in Belize for a period of 5 years immediately before date of his application. So that's very clear and straightforward there. However, there have been some cases where the Prime Minister came to the House of Representatives declaring that he would like to change some of the rules under those particular sections of the Constitution. We'll cover some of those in a little while. Let me just read subsection 2 says, the National Assembly shall prescribe by law the procedures for making and determining applications and the conditions to be fulfilled by persons making applications for registration under this section, which is, as we just said, section 26. Subsection 3 reads as follows. A person registered as a citizen of Belize under this section shall become a citizen of Belize on the date on which he is registered. So that's very clear again and straightforward. We have now some of the preclusions and the specific areas that I would like for us to maybe pay keen attention to, because, wherever you have exceptions and exemptions, you have to understand the peculiarities as to how come or why, and then how to overcome those barriers or bars that are set up. I'll read on section 27, which only has one paragraph, by the way, and it says, a citizen of Belize by birth or descent who acquires the citizenship of any other country may, if the laws of the other country so permit, and at his, the citizen, which is either a male or a female, his or her own option, may retain his citizenship of Belize. That is to say, a Belizean is entitled to dual citizenship by keeping his Belizean citizenship and acquire the citizenship of any other second country that allows for that dual citizenship status. That is to say, some people in Belize who come to the United States and goes through the process here in the United States, all the legal hoops, and jump through everything that is required and become legally certified as a citizen of the United States, may also retain their original Belize citizenship, therefore becoming a dual citizen, so long as the United States permits it, which is the law of the United States currently, until probably they change it. I don't know. At the rate that we're going, anything could happen. But anyhow, that is what Section 27 of the Constitution of Belize says. That is to say, the government has no right or authority to dispossess you as a Belizean of your Belizean citizenship if you so choose or to own to become a dual citizen of Belize and of a second country. That is not the prerogative or the purview of the government to interfere and or to get into those issues and to decide them on your behalf. That is largely the prerogative of the individual. I'll read it again, just for clarity. Section 27 says, a citizen of Belize by birth or descent who acquires the citizenship of any other country, a second country, right? It could be like I discussed earlier, the United States, or any other country, Jamaica or whatever, Mexico. They may, if the laws of the other country so permit, and at his or her option, in other words, the government doesn't have an option there, it's only that's between you, your God, and the second country. Because your Belizean citizenship, the government have nothing to do with that in terms of granting it to you or taking it away from you or dispossessing you or denying you of any privileges or rights that are conferred to you under natural born Belizean citizenship status. Having said that much about that particular section 27, I'd like to skip to section 28 and do a short reading again. 28.1. Section 28, subsection 1 reads as follows. The National Assembly may make provisions not inconsistent with this part in respect of citizenship. That is that this part 3 of the Constitution, under 20, section 27, which we read before, and now under 28, it says that the National Assembly may make provisions. In other words, it's granting the National Assembly constitutional powers and authorities, but that power should not be inconsistent with this part of the Constitution. That is to say, they are granted powers to do certain things, but they just can't willy-nilly go over the board and just do just about any other thing that, in the so doing, end up violating this part of the Constitution, or for that matter of fact, any other part, because then any such violation will be constituted as yeah, will be constituted uh, as being inconsistent with the Constitution, and therefore to be considered or ruled or viewed as being null and void. I don't think so. Brackett is ready yet, so I'll just continue on. Um, for example, it says, including provisions for, as in the example of paragraph A, which I'm about to read, which says, the acquisition of citizenship of Belize by persons who are not eligible or who are no longer eligible to become citizens of Belize under this part. As I previously described, there are certain sections of the Constitution that tells you or make exception to some categories of individuals that may not be granted citizenship of Belize, and or if they are granted citizenship of Belize and for whatever reason the Constitution deemed them or they deem themselves not be interested anymore in continuing their citizenship, or they want to renounce their citizenship, then the legislator is authorized to make provisions in the laws to facilitate that renunciation being able to take place. Uh, just like here in America, if, for example, if you're given citizenship or any status whatsoever, the powers of the Constitution of the country allows the government of the country to retract back or take back whatever was granted or given to you. So you can be given a green card, it can be taken back from you. You can be given a temporary status, that can be taken back from you. You can be given or qualified for a citizenship status, and if you commit a major crime or something that is, catastrophic in terms of um, your disqualification for them to allow you to stay here, you know, then it can be taken back from you and you can be deported. As a matter of fact, they're taking away the citizenship of born Americans, as we have seen recently. And not only taking away their citizenship, they're actually capriciously shipping them abroad to other countries that they know nothing about and have never lived there, were not born there, have no kind of status in those countries, and have no means of being able to survive in those countries and suffer for a while until they can figure out how to go, how to be able to survive. I see our next panelist, senior engineer, Mr. Gregory Brackett, is gracing us with his presence, and I would like to stop what I'm doing right now and just afford him the opportunity to self-identify. Are you, Mr. Brackett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good night to you, people at home and
Yes,
abroad.
I'm running along with the program. I didn't have my headpiece on. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir.
Good night to you, people at home and abroad. Thanking you for tuning in to this, the 288th edition of Belizean Affairs. I go back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Uh, I don't know how much of what I was saying you were able to hear because I noticed you was in the background for a little while, and I presume you was doing something else, and may not have had the opportunity to hear much of what I was saying. Oh, possibly you may have been able to, multitask. I know you have that capability, so I shouldn't be questioning whether or not you may have used it or not. Other than to say, I was reading section 27 and section 28, lastly, of the Constitution of Belize in regards to some of the powers vested in the legislator to make arrangements and or laws or procedures to afford some people the possibility of getting nationality and or citizenship of Belize as well. And I read A and B. Um, I was about to read section. Well, let me read section B over again for context, and then I'll read um, not section B, paragraph B. It says revoking the citizenship of any person referred to in section 26 1 of this constitution. That is, the legislator has the power to make laws or write procedures, process, or protocols in order to facilitate that particular description under paragraph B. And under paragraph C, it says to for the renunciation by any person of his citizenship of Belize, which could include, as I previously mentioned, even a born Belizean, if he so desires, has the right and the power vested in him, not in the legislator, for him to renounce his citizenship of his own country. But that cannot be imposed on him without his consent or acquiescence, not without his um, desire or wishes, because those prerogatives are largely the purview of the person, as the Constitution described it earlier. Um, I have section 28, 2, and I think I should just go ahead and read that just to complete section 28, rather than to ask Mr. Brackett to give us a quick input on from his own legal and technical knowledge and experience. Well, I'll just take a stab at reading this portion here so that we can complete, so that I can go into 29 when the next opportunity arrives. So I'll read on subsection 2 of section 20 of the Constitution of Belize, and it says as follows. Paragraph A of subsection 1, above which we just read, of this section shall not be construed as allowing the National Assembly to make legislation for the acquisition of citizenship of Belize by any person who make a substantial contribution to the economy and or well-being of Belize, or who has rendered distinguished services to Belize. And that's the end of subsection 2. Mr. Brackett, Mr. Greg Brackett, I'd like to yield to you, sir, if you to ask if you have any comments or further elucidation that you can
Thank,
provide on
thank
this.
you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir.
While we do have a constitution here in Belize, and we are considered a country of democracy, we must also watch at how the government past and present our constitution,
Hmm.
to which many have taken oath to, but still amend the constitution informally and make laws that does not go inside section 2 of the constitution.
Right.
And while you were reading up on how citizenship can be earned, we must also look at how outside the box how citizenship can also be earned. Because if we listen to what the Constitution say and what the Voters Act says, we must look at people living in other Commonwealth countries who can
Mm-hmm.
come to Belize and live for a year and participate in a general election after they have resided in this country for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are speaking about citizenship, if they have the ability to do that, we must look at them as Belizean citizens in common sense. While we have a government who is now in constitution reform, but is still not speaking about these people who can come in and do that. And secondly, from what you read, Belize constitution forbid anyone that is in a country trying to take over a country is barred from obtaining citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as I was mentioning, we have to look about how this is presented because a prime and fair example is Honduras, who we never have a quarrel with or a fight with.
Mm-hmm.
But then, by them now taking part in the ICJ with a claim, they fall under the same thing as Guatemala.
They
But
become
yet,
precluded.
previously,
They're precluded.
there's a lot of Honduranians who have been getting Belizean citizens. And
As a
that
matter of
is
fact,
why I
we have them in
say
the legislature, Mr. Brackett. We also have one of them in the legislature right now, which
that is
should be
correct.
introduced.
That is correct. And that is why I'm saying we have to look carefully at how past and present government deals with internal and external policy.
Mm-hmm.
Because then if you will say we will include Honduras at the ICJ, is to say they also want to take over Belize. And if you are
Well,
telling us, the people,
well,
that,
uh, uh,
then
Mr. Brackett,
Honduran people should be barred
on that point,
from becoming citizens.
before we get too far away from that one point that you brought up just now, you're I would say you're 99% correct, but the 1% difference to make 100 is that Honduras is not claiming the whole territory of Belize or any massive territory of Belize. It's just trying to lay claim to that one group of islands right there that is close to them. As you rightfully stipulated or said earlier, we had not had a problem with them in that regard as compared to Guatemala for hundreds of years trying to claim the whole of we country. So in the constitution, when it was drafted and put together, that was specifically stipulated there for that particular circumstance. Then no one envisioned that Honduras would have then been brought into this process because we would have ended up at the ICJ and Honduras would have laid claim to what they consider to be one of their islands, which is not the same as the whole of we country. In other words, we don't have a serious adversarial situation with Honduras as we do have with Guatemala, other than for the fact that this island is in dispute. But I yield back to you, sir. I didn't intend it was to just
Thank,
take
thank
over your
you
point.
for your explanation, Mr. Chairman, but I
Okay.
differ from that because then there is no mention of how much Guatemala was claiming either. And even when Honduras is entering and they are saying just a small portion, it is still a violation of our constitution because
Yes.
claiming is
Hmm.
claiming,
Hmm.
and we must look at that. And furthermore, it goes beyond that because then they are allowed citizenship and they are playing a majority role in our country.
Hmm.
As we can see, Belizean people that we call Creole people or black people are being are becoming minorities. while
outnumbered.
the Hispanics are gaining more grounds than us.
That's by
So these
design, though. That is by
these are
design,
things
sir.
we need to look at,
Uh-huh.
you know. And when we start to see the footprint, as we do have an elected Honduran who is also claiming Belizean citizenship, one must start to wonder. With that said, I would like to go back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. And that is specifically the part that we're going to take up right now in terms of Section 29. And let me go to Section 29. Let me see quickly. I need to put on my supplemental laws just to make sure I'm not saying the wrong thing. Okay, so I'll go ahead then and skip over what we had dealt with before and go and read Section 29 of the Constitution of Belize, subsection 1, reads as follows. For the purposes of this part, which is part 3 that we're reading, subject to section 24 and 25, which we read before, a person or any person born aboard a ship or aircraft registered in Belize or aboard an unregistered ship or aircraft in the of the government of Belize shall not be deemed to have been born in Belize. Subsection 2 reads as follows, and this is a cute one, I would say cute, just for differentiation or for emphasis. Based on some of what we were talking about just now, it says, subsection 2 says, any reference to this part, in this part, to the national status of of the father of a person at the time of that person's birth shall, in relation to a person's in relation to a person's born after the date of his birth, father's after the death of his father, be construed as a reference to the national status of the father at the time of the father's death. That is to say, if the father was a Belizean, the person and the father had died, and the person is trying to regularize their status to become a Belizean. As of the point in time when the father died, he died as a Belizean, and therefore that offspring, son or daughter, would then qualify under this particular subsection 2 to be treated or given the same rights as if his father was still alive, and then claiming that right, because that right uh, is hereditary, and being an offspring of the father or mother, the person is entitled to that, to the exercise and the fulfillment of that right on their behalf. The fact that the father had died before doesn't mean that the person is not an offspring and or should not be, able to um, get his Belizean citizenship established. Um, Let me read the rest of it. It says, it shall, uh, after the death of his father, he or she, in this regard, can be construed as a reference to the national status of the father at the time of the father's death, and where that death occurred before 21st day of September of 1981, which is the date of independence, and uh, the birth occurred on or after the 21st date of September of 1981, that is to say, a day after or a week or a month or any amount of years after, The national status that the father would have had if he had died on the 21st day of September, that is to say, on Independence Day, that status shall be deemed to be his natural status at the time of his death, and therefore the right of inheritance of that offspring or that person, whether male or female, would be valid. The reason why they used the 21st day of September as the median date, whether born before or after, is because that is the date of independence. And on independence, the Constitution classified or determined who becomes a Belizean then, because prior to the date of independence, Belizeans were still under the Commonwealth, which we still are, by the way. I'm sorry about that. That's not my point. Belizeans were still being considered as British subject, as British, as being part of the colony of British Honduras. But after the Independence Day, which was 21st of September 1981, then those who were born before that date are grandfathered into the constitutional process of citizenship by inheritance. And those who were born after are just natural born Belizeans under the Belizean independent status and the new constitution. So those are just what you call house cleaning mechanisms that were being discussed there. You know, sometimes these things they sound kind of esoteric or confusing. You know, but it makes a difference in terms of how to recognize or clarify those points. I'd like to read subsection 3, and it has quite a few subsections, 4, 5, and that's it. But they're larger paragraphs. So for right now, I'll just like to read subsection 3 before going back to additional commentary. Under subsection 3, it says, no persons shall be entitled under the provision of this part, which is part 3 that we are reading, to be a citizen of Belize or be granted citizenship of Belize, as we had been discussing a little earlier when you was making your comment, Mr. Brackett. This is a particular section that adjusts that. So now we are reading what we had discussed just now. We're reading it directly from the Constitution. And I'll just start it over again for emphasis or clarification. Subsection 3 says, no person shall be entitled under the provision of this part to be a citizen of Belize or be granted citizenship of Belize if such person shows any allegiance to or is a citizen of a country which does not recognize the territorial independence and sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Belize, and which is what we were describing just now. Anybody that comes or lives in a country or have allegiance to a country such as Guatemala and now Honduras, as they're now clarifying, who has a hostile attitude and or is claiming any territorial part of Belize. The Constitution deliberately says that they should not be granted any citizenship. But all government are granting citizenship left, right, and center. As a matter of fact, they have gone on to sign agreement with the United States now for not only just Guatemalans to come to Belize and Hondurans, which our Constitution precludes and forbids, but for them to come in droves based on what our foreign minister signed agreements stipulating that we are going to accommodate anybody from any foreign country in our country, irrespective of our constitution mandates. That of itself is illegal and unconstitutional, as well as unlawful. So that minister that signed that document needs to be taken to court and sent to jail. For what reason? Treachery, right? But anyhow, let's not get into the side part of it, because the purpose of these readings is to elucidate and enlighten and or hopefully allow people to learn a little bit more than they probably would have known or knew before. And so we don't want to be expanding too much and elaborate too much into too many other uh, uh, angles. Mr. Brackett, can I ask your indulgence, sir, if you have a comment to make on that particular section, section 3? There's another paragraph, but I'll leave that part out for right now. I'll yield to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Instead of making a comment, let me go to the tape based on what you just lastly said.
Go right ahead, sir. I yield.
Calling all Belizeans to the front of the classroom. So, I was watching the news and I actually had to write this down because I wanted to make sure that I quoted this in verbatim and I didn't miss anything. The U.S. State Department announced today that they are pausing visas to countries in which they deem are likely to become a public charge to the United States. Belize apparently made the list. AKA, what that translates to is, the shithole countries that Trump was referring to? Belize is one of them in his opinion, not mine. I'm Belizean descendant, so I would never say that. But just so we're clear, that's the message that's being communicated. Where is the outrage and the pushback on this? I log on to social media and the only thing that's being shared is a video dispute of two bus drivers having an issue. I don't know what the issue is. I don't care to know what the issue is. Clearly, there's larger issues at hand. Make it make sense. I mean, Belizeans, you need to get your priorities straight and in order. The United States is using you guys as a fool. I mean, your government entered an agreement with the United States where they're going to send deportees, not of Belizean origin, to Belize. Make it make sense. So you guys are accepting people from other countries that are not of Belizean origin when your own people can't even get a visa to come over here because you guys, again, are on the list that Trump's words, not mine, he considers a shithole country. Make it make sense. But everybody has time to reshare a video of two bus drivers having a dispute. Where is the outrage in this? Like, I'm just flabbergasted. It's unfortunate, but you know what? What do I know? I'm just going to sit here and sip on my tea while it's still hot from my living room in the United States while you all continue to focus on nonsense. Get it together.
Well said, Mr. Chairman, because that is exactly what is happening in Belize. They listen to so much narrative and continue to listen to narratives by the present government that the present government has stolen national security right out the hands of the Belizean people.
To do what with it?
To bring in a
What are they
terrorist
doing with it?
first, get up in the house and say before they do that again they will come to the people only to find that they had silenced to this third country deal.
Because they lie. Lying is the way that they get by.
But I go back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you also for the tape that you just played, which puts in somebody else's words the very same thing I was saying, so that they can't say, well, I was saying something that nobody else is aware of. because when we speak on this show or on this platform, we speak with the authority of the facts and clarity of those facts. And we don't open our mouth and speak to any issues that we are not prepared to discuss and elucidate on. Our credibility is very important because we have a serious, serious charge to deal with in terms of what's in the best interest of our country. And in that regards, we don't pull punches or play games. Nevertheless, thank you very much again for your commentary on the tape, because all it did was to expand and elucidate from other people's perspective in terms of reading what's going on and why is it that we are so docile and we sit back and allow these constitutional violations by foreign entities as well as our own political leaders. I'll just turn this thing sideways again so I can read the last part that I told you I hadn't finished read of subsection 3. Just a second. Okay. And it reads as follows. Provided that the minister may, in his discretion, grant Belizean, just a second, a citizenship to persons falling under the subsection, under this subsection. That is, let me read that over again because I think I was babbling a little bit there, because one of the word was, it didn't have a hyphen and it was truncated, and then what I was reading would not have made the correct sense. Let me read it over again, just for emphasis and clarity. Provided that the minister who is responsible for immigration and foreign affairs issues, for example, may in his discretion grant Belizean citizenship to persons falling under this subsection who would otherwise be entitled to such citizenship under the provisions of section 23, 25 of this constitution. And that's the end of subsection 3. There is a portion here under subsection 5 which says, subsection 4, let me read. Where a person born outside of Belize is entitled to be a citizen of Belize under the provisions of this part, the right to Belizean citizenship shall, not may or could, there's no conditional requirement. It's a mandamus, it's a mandate, it's a command. Shall. Under the provisions of this part, the right to Belizean citizenship shall not be deemed to accrue upon the conditions given rise to such entitlement arising, but the citizenship shall be sought for by the person entitled to or on his behalf and obtained by the grant by the minister of proper certification affirming his citizenship. That is to say, not only his citizenship, but her as well. And what is talking about this in the case of, well, I won't go into that. That's personal, and I was going to refer. Somebody else is involved, and I don't need to be publicizing other people's business. So I'll just close my mouth in regards to that particular comment I was about to make. And I'll just read section 5, and then we're going to be finished with part 3 of the Constitution, as well as the issues relating to citizenship. Let me go ahead and read it. Subsection 5 says, where a person claiming citizenship by birth, comma, descent, or registration makes an application or request for the grant of citizenship, the stay of such person in Belize shall not be considered illegal under the provisions of any law. That is, there's no law that should be made to prohibit that person from staying in Belize while his or her documentation is going through the process, for example, of any law for so long and only for so long as such stay is necessary for the disposal of his application. When it says his, it means his and hers, by the way. His or her right of abode or that of his wife or her husband or dependents, if any, under the age of 18 or 18 years, shall not be affected pending the disposal of his applications. And that's the end of the section of citizenship. Uh, do you have a comment that you'd like to attribute to what I just read, Mr. Brackett?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, but before I do that,
Yes, sir.
I just want to give an update on what we and Belizean Affairs has been doing night after night and how we have classified ourselves to a percentage of probably 98.9 in practicality in things we have put out there to the Belizean people. Tonight, I want to say again, we have been beating this night after night. We have mentioned it. I last did on the night show on it, talking about mental patient and homeless individual. I went and I said that taxpayers are paying the government enough tax, and the government should be the one to house these people.
Mm-hmm.
We went on to say I think just 2 weeks ago or so, we mentioned where they had the what was called the crazy house,
Mm-hmm.
and where they had other places that these people can go. Well, tonight I want to say to you, the people at home and abroad, I think that what we do here in Belizean Affair is not in vain. Because when I see things like this, it makes us rejoice to know that we have been heard. Let's go to the tape.
The Minister of Human Development presented a paper to Cabinet where they expect to spend over $800,000 to be able to set up new homes, not only in Belize, but in Orange Rock, to look after the north, in Cayo and in Stan Creek. Homelessness is becoming a serious problem in our society, and it's a sad one. In many instances, many times these people have mental issues, and I know that lots of time people say, well, the family don't care for them. A lot of families try and they try and they try and they finally get frustrated, and then they end up on the streets. And now I think we believe that as our government and as a people, we also have a responsibility, a moral responsibility to do something for them. So the plan was presented to Cabinet. It was approved, but now we need to look at the budget. I was speaking with the CEO of investment last night, and I'm suggesting that maybe what we could do from the Bolido has become very, very successful. Remember that the UDP, they were collecting about 2.5 million. This year, it seems that we're going to make about $25 million in profit, 10 times more than what was happening under the UDP. So I'm thinking that maybe we should take monies from the Bolido to be able to finance this so that we could help our people.
Okay.
So there you go, Mr. Chairman.
wherever he gets it from, as I said before, because when we touched that subject, we said they have the ability to find the money. The government is not broke. You just have a cash flow problem because of mismanagement and malmanagement. I'm glad to hear that at least now they are recognizing that, you know, the funds can be found and they're going to provide it and get on with the business of taking care of these people off the streets and helping them, you know. So I'm happy at least that's another one that we can chalk up that, you know, we're able to help bring some pressures on these guys to do what's right. It shouldn't have taken us or anybody else to have to pressure them or embarrass them into doing what's right. That's their job. They're getting paid to do it. But anyhow, I won't belabor the point. You know, thanks for the tape played and the report made. And like I said, you're quite within order to say that we have a 98.5% track record in terms of success from our advocacy. Why? Because we don't advocate stupidness, or we don't just jump and speak to stuff that we don't have the basis for which to sustain a proper argument or a valid argument. So thanks again, Mr. Gregory Brackett, for your report and the contribution that you bring to this platform, as well as Mr. Wade and Mr. Morrison and others who have graced us, and many other people who have not come to our platform but are doing their own thing. It all adds up, and at the end of the day, thanks that we're having some successes. I yield back, sir, for any.
I go back to you, Mr. Chairman, to finish.
I'm sorry?
I go back to you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So, that having been said, for tonight, as regards to the citizenship issues, we still have a few minutes left. Do you have something else that you'd like to add to use up some of the minutes, or can I go on with some more constitutional issues?
Yes, you can, sir.
I'm sorry?
Proceed, sir. Proceed.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. Spare me a second here. I'm going to get into the report that was submitted to the Prime Minister that they call the PCC recommendations. And I want to read recommendation number, which one is this? This topic is a large topic. I don't know. Let me go ahead and do it. Okay. Emergency powers. Okay. Under emergency powers, the PCC, as I explained previously, which is a People's Constitutional Commission that was set up by the Prime Minister to go out and educate the public, which they never successfully did. But yet they had the temerity to provide the Prime Minister with recommendations that are supposed to be used to change the laws for the whole population of the country. When they have not even gone to, they have not dealt with and or consulted 15% of the population of the country. They used up all their time, all their money, never completed the task, and are now pretending that, well, despite that being the fact, they submit a recommendation on the basis of which the Prime Minister is supposed to go ahead, take it to the legislative body, pass it into law, and affect everybody else. That's onerous. That's not the way it was supposed to have been done. As if it was supposed to be done anyhow, because nobody asked them to do it. That was just a joke that they were pulling on the people. where they were hoping that the people would have gone along with the program and they would have had the opportunity to include what they wanted to include in the changes so as to make themselves accrue more powers onto themselves. That's what they were after. Anyhow, under emergency powers recommendation number 53, the PCC said amend to expand and make provisions for public. Oh man, this is. I need to make it a little smaller. Please bear with me. Gotta go a little smaller. Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Yeah, that's better. Much better. It's going to be harder to read when it's that smaller. The letters are much smaller, but at least it's going to be consistent. Recommendation number 53 says amend to expand and make provisions for public emergency. Under 53.1, they're saying remove the term outbreak of infectious diseases from section 18, subsection 3, paragraph A. That is, and 2, they said add the terms prevention of out, prevention of outbreaks of infectious diseases in section 8, subsection 3, and paragraph B. Uh, would you care to give us a little insight on those two changes there, Mr. Brackett? Great.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you repeat that?
Yes. Okay. Under recommendation number 53, they're saying that they want to amend to expand and make provisions for public emergencies, such as 53.1, remove the term outbreak of infectious diseases from section 18, subsection 3, part or paragraph A, and add the term prevention of outbreak of infectious diseases. Oh, okay, somebody trying to interfere with my transmitter. Add the term prevention of outbreak of infectious diseases. In other words, they're going to replace one with the other. I don't really see what, I mean,
I think that is highly impossible, Mr. Chairman, because when you look at it, they are actually wasting money. They started off on the bad leg anyway.
exactly.
Before the Prime Minister started to do this PCC Act or whatever they want to call it, he should have came to the people with a plebiscite to know if the people was down on constitution reform. But when you tell the people that and you use words
Let's,
like repatriation and taking the queen head off the money to try to help you push an agenda, it backfires on you. When you try to say the PCC Act also having a referendum act, you are outright lying to the people
mm-hmm,
because there's only one constitution
at a
and
time.
you continue to push that agenda. There's still only one constitution
Mm-hmm,
and you cannot take out or remove anything until you have a plebiscite.
mm-hmm,
So the direction they're heading is trying to do what we call informal amendment of the constitution because the government is acting as though the PCC Act is the new constitution as they have it drafted out. when in fact it is not. And people need to know this because they pretend it is, but it's not.
Well, they are
Uh,
operating. They are actually operating as if that's the case, as you're saying.
exactly what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
Exactly what I'm saying, sir.
Thank you very much for your commentary, sir. Um, I think we have like 15 minutes more left, so um, maybe we can do one or two more, depending on. Okay, maybe one more of these. Recommendation number 54 says amend the trigger for public emergency. And I think this one is very interesting and important to us because we beat them over the head enough with this one, at least over the last couple of years. And it says here under 54, one they're recommending the trigger mechanism for section 18.3, paragraph A, are sufficient and should be left alone. But under subsection 54, subsection 2, it says that section 18.3 should be amended to, as in the case of paragraph A, strengthen slash raise the trigger mechanism for public emergency, and, as in paragraph B, include a provision that precludes the state from relying on the occurrence of offices in domestic legislation in and of itself to justify imposition of states of emergency. That's part of the one that they're trying to get away from because we told them literally dozens of times that those bogus SOEs that they were trying to implement, well, they actually implemented, for which they actually got sued as well. We told them those things were illegal. We told them that they were going to cause problems. They had a lot of people go to jail, sit in jail for days and weeks, and in some cases even months before they let them go. Some of them never got charged. They victimized those people that went into their community, broke down their house, their doors, their windows and stuff, brutalized the people, sent them up to Hattiville at the jail, and then turn around and when the court ordered them to make amends to those people and pay the people for the damages that they caused, both bodily damages as well as psychological damages and property damages. They want to go around and make another bastardized law to say that what had been done in the past is now presently exculpated, and what's going to be done in the future is already exculpated too under this present law that they're trying to put in place. That is to say, they have carte blanche, but the police officers go there and misbehave the same way, for which we change to court and a lot. You're acting as a rogue bunch of a couple of rogue um, monsters or whatever it is that they're not acting as lawful um, government officials. But I'd like to pass it over to you for a second, Mr. Brackett, so you can elaborate a little bit more on that because we have spoken to that matter quite a bit in the past. Are you, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
We have also spoken about other things, and one of them that I see is about to happen, and I have mentioned it also here on Belizean Affair, is statutory instruments and policies does not trump one's constitutional rights. And now, because the government is caught up in this BTL scam,
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to take this to the house. They don't want to do consultation with the people. They want to make a SI and he's using the phrase to put it on pause until they can do what they need to do. Mr. Prime Minister, you cannot make an essay. Point
And
blank, I'm telling you.
and SI cannot trump the Constitution, and that's why they lost
It
that case with
cannot
BS.
trump the
That's why they lost the
Constitution.
case with ASR BSI.
Mr.
That was the
Chairman,
basis. They're bogus.
if you recall last Monday, I said what they were doing
Mm-hmm.
was legalized conspiracy,
Exactly.
meaning that the Prime Minister was involved. He had to know. He had to know because that was the trend going on within this government.
Mm-hmm.
The port of Danriga is public-private.
Mm-hmm.
And who is representing the private part? Dr. Zabani. The new bus company is public-private. Who
Mm-hmm.
is representing that? The other Zabani. So it's something they are doing. What they are doing is
Hustling.
what happened within the past government. They are setting up these public-private companies, and when they set it up, they give the private side long concession, like 25 years, 30 years. So when the other government come in, they will still be collecting as a private public entity. That is what they're doing. And you know what? Let's point it out. Public, private, the private is funded by the people's money. When you look at the port of Danriga, public, private, Dr. Zabani is representing the private sector, but yet he needs 50 million. He can bring in investors to help fund him. So, in other words, the foreign investor is actually going to take over the port, and he will sit on the side and collect for
At the
years.
at the end of the day,
And this is what they're doing. It's the same thing in detail. But let's listen to what he had to say, Mr. Chairman.
it's a big hustle. It's a scam.
Mhm.
So the government has taken a policy decision in relation to the telecoms industry and to provide from monopoly now through just an SI, which would not have to go to Parliament, means that you, in a sense, are supporting a monopoly that the people is rejecting. Are you prepared that you will see demonstrations in the streets over this?
I think your questions are very loaded. I think I would accept that there is some concerns. And what we're saying by doing just an SI is simply just to put things on hold, on pause. Nothing will happen until you know how best to be able to regulate the industry. And at the end of the day, we need to remember BTL taxpayers paid 610 million plus. We still don't get the full amount for 2/3 of the telecom industry. And from BTS perspective, they believe that if they were to buy the other 1/3, that there are efficiencies that could come into place and that they'll be able to withstand the challenges that are coming to Belize. And at the end of the day, they need to do what is in the best interest of the company, and by extension, us as a government need to be able to protect our taxpayers' monies and social security monies.
So there you go, Mr. Chairman. Legalized conspiracy. The Prime Minister is outright saying they will do a site to put it on pause. But how can you do that?
Does
SI does not
does,
trump the Constitution.
Mr.
And
Brackett,
what is happening? He's
does the
trying
prime?
to not,
Sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead,
he's
sir.
not only trying to use an SI, okay, to trump what is in the Constitution. He's trying to use
Can't
that to
happen.
trump the very act that says you must have competition.
Can't happen.
So you see
It's not
what
permissible.
I'm
It's
saying?
illegal. Any other law, as per Section 2 of the Constitution, any other law that is inconsistent with the current Constitution is null and void. What part of that they don't want to abide by, or they don't understand? The guy is a shyster. He lies for a living. And he failed to remember that the people out here that's hearing his lies over and over doesn't believe nothing of what he's saying.
But
That's
Mr.
how he got the
Chairman,
picture that he's
it
convincing.
goes it
Yeah.
goes beyond that. What he's also saying is Puck is going to make legislation. He is the one who appoints those personnel and Puck board. He is
But
the one who
they,
appoints them.
they can't
And
make
if they
legislation.
are to go
Only the
around right
legislature,
now,
sir, only the legislature can make legislation. They can make procedures, they can make protocols, they can make departmental um, um, rules and regulations, but none of that trumps the Constitution. So there's no way he can get to where he wants to go from here. That's and he's trying to he's
it,
trying to bully
it
the
is
process.
very simple. In broad daylight,
Is he not getting any legal
they
advice?
can make laws and they can make policies, but they must align with the Constitution. Not
And that's his problem.
informally, but
That's his problem.
formally. And that's what they're doing. I don't see how doing a SI is going to trump the very act that says you must have competition.
Does he
And
know that?
when you,
He
when
doesn't know that.
you, he knows that they have liars. I
Okay,
mean, if I know it and I'm putting it out there, and you know it because we are saying
we've been telling them that for a long time now.
it,
No SI policies, procedures, protocols, or departmental regulation trumps the Constitution. That's why they made an SI to try and muzzle the BSI, the Cane farmers, people, with the BSI thing that they were trying to.
right?
I think who was it? Judge, not Judge Navy, Judge, what was her name again? I forget the lady name. Told them plain and straight that the SI was bogus. They can make an SI to overrule constitutional prerogatives,
Exactly. And I told them they would lose that
and
case
that's what
also, like
they're trying
many
to
others.
do again.
Like many others, I told them they would lose it.
They don't care. It's not coming out of their pocket. If there was a way that they could suffer some consequences for the bastardization of the laws that they make and the Constitution and the damage caused, if some of the expenses or the costs for settlements and all of these would come out of their pocket or their salaries or something like that, they will be more cautious. They'll be more, realistic. But as he says all the time, who pays the bill? The people. So he don't give a
Right.
fuck. And he tell us that to our face. Anyhow,
You know the phrase, I know Belizean at home and abroad, know the phrase
hmm
when they when you go into when you go into gamble and they say you come in here, you want to degrade.
hmm
That's what they're trying to do, using public funds to sponsor private entity,
and then
and the
the and then and
private
then and
entity
then the
will
public
end up with the most.
and then the public no want no shares in the stuff that they do. Okay, they use the public funds, like you say, to get involved in these private issues, and then they turn around and the public doesn't get any shares, and they run away with all the sweets, because at the end of the day, they aggregate back those public private company to themselves. Okay, that's the game, over and over and over. Anyhow, thank you very much, sir, for gracing us with your presence tonight and for your assistance in terms of what you brought to the table and what you gave to the public. And I hope that whatever was rendered tonight, people would, those who have listened to our program live tonight, would have benefited positively from it, as well as those who would be listening to us at their own convenience. Hopefully, over the weekend, they'll have more time at home and be able to digest some of these matters. Um, this was the Belizean Affairs show number 388, and we were grateful for your tuning in. We wish you the best. God bless. Belize and Belizeans. And we'd like to say good night. And Mr. Brackett, you want to have a last parting word, sir, and close out for the
Thank
show?
you, Mr. Chairman. I want to say good night to you people at home and abroad. Thank you for tuning in. And I hope on Monday you will tune in because I will do an awesome presentation on public-private companies and how they work and what is the advantage and disadvantage. With that said, I would like to say good night to you, the people at home and abroad.